Okay, welcome to the Booking Agents Born to Be Wide. It's the 1st of July 2010. We've spent a good few weeks getting a panel of booking agents together, and the whole night is based around what an agent does, what you need to do to get an agent, and what you can do to book your own shows if you don't get an agent. What would you say is an agent's job?
Well, kind of from the logistical point of view, I would agree with Alex. It's pretty standard for all of us, I think. But I think right now our jobs are pretty much split into two areas, one being the agent, routing tours, booking tours, contracting shows, looking after artists, live interests, but also more and more, I think, probably speaking for all of us, we're becoming the new A&R scouts to an extent. Agents are picking up a lot more unsigned artists very, very early on in their career, sometimes before they have any other team around them. Partly because of the strength of the live industry and the demand for shows and to see artists live. So a big part of our job is finding the next big thing without sounding horribly cliched.
I'm Jason Edwards. I'm a booking agent and manager at the Art of Agency, which is based in Glasgow, and I'm soon to move to 13 Artists in Brighton. When I was 17, which was 6 years ago now, I would come to the street for Born to Be Wide networking events, and that is where I made my first real contacts in the Scottish music industry. So I've been aware of this for ages, aware of Olaf's work. It's been very influential in me being an Edinburgh boy, learning more about the industry and about music and about how everything works. And so yeah, more than aware of it, and I think it's fantastic what you guys all do. So
when you're working with emerging artists, you obviously do have to get on the phone and get on the email and knock down a lot of doors, and so it is probably more work working with very small, young, new acts than it is working with established ones. I think, quite funnily actually, when I was working with Kasabian, I worked with Kasabian for 2.5 years when they were on the way up, booking them all their rubbish shit gigs that nobody ever wanted to go to. Now they're headlining festivals all over the world.
Just written a really bad review of it. Oops.
Their A&R guy at the time, or one of the main guys at their label, was a guy called Mark Pinder, who used to drum with Paul Young's band, funnily enough. And he rang me to thank me for my work one day, Joanna, and he said, Joanna, I know how hard your job is at this point in time, because it's when the artists are established, you just almost sit and wait for the phone to ring.
Hello, I'm Joanna. My name is Joanna Ashmore, in full. I'm a booking agent from London, and I work for a company called ITB, which stands for International Talent Booking.
Do you want to say some of the artists that you work with?
I work with the wonderful Frank Turner, a Belgian band called The Black Box Revelation, an up-and-coming new artist called Wild Palms, who I'm very excited about, signed to One Little Indian, and some Scottish acts as well, the lovely Aaron Wright and the Aprils, who hail from Edinburgh, where we are now, and Mitchell Museum, who are from Glasgow.
We, as a rule, sign 2 new development artists each year, only 2, and that's a lot of work. Most of those artists don't have managers, so for us, we're looking at a live strategy. Quite often, we're placing them with a distributor or a record label, and we're certainly finding the PR agencies and pluggers for those artists. So we're looking, on the developing artists, we sit down with them and we come up with a 2-year plan, and we look to where we want to see them being 2 years' time. Obviously, that's to do with growing audiences. And you have to do that because ultimately promoters are concerned with bums on seats.
Hi, my name's Lisa. I run a company called Active Events, which is an agency specialising in folk and roots music. We work internationally in all territories of the world, with the exception of the US of A. It was good fun today. I enjoyed it. It was really inspiring being surrounded by other agents, because quite often it can be quite lonely as an agent.
I think it's more meeting A&Rs directly, going into the various offices in London, sitting down with A&Rs and just saying who you're working with on your roster. You're not there to sort of say who's got more hi-hat, how developing the studio. I haven't a clue half the time what goes in there. The band do the music, I do the bookings. But I think it's going in there and actually selling the band to the A&R, saying, look, this band are doing this, they're worth tickets, they're doing this, and progressing that band. And it's, A&Rs are out there scouting, but agents are also scouting as well. And it seems to be more agents are scouting first than the A&Rs are moving after once the band are sort of selling to a level.
My name's Alex, I'm a booking agent, MAINSTAGE artist. I came out from London today to take part in the conference, and it was actually incredible. It's a great eye-opening experience. And I felt I learned quite a lot, and hopefully the crowd learned a lot too. From an agent's perspective, there's a lot of young bands there and young artists, so I think it was a learning curve for them. So yeah, I think it was beneficial to them. It's beneficial to the agents to get some feedback as well. There's been a lot of good responses. So in the long term, yeah, I think it's been a good night.
I mean, what should artists look for in an agent?
You need to look for honesty, right? You need to look for an agent to actually tell you the truth. There is no point in us going, oh, wow, that was an amazing gig, when in actual fact it might have been one of the worst ones that you've ever done. And I think that relationship between an artist and an agent is critical, right? If you are going to get the best results possible. So I think you need to look for honesty. You need to look for strategy. I mean, I can't agree enough with that. The development strategy of an artist, certainly the live development strategy, is very much led by the agent, with the input, right, of press agents and record labels.
Barry Dickens, my boss, always says as well, agents are a mere vessel. We are like a gun. You need to give us the ammunition.
So, I mean, if someone then says, I can get you on at Glastonbury, I can do this, I could do that, would you say that would be a danger sign? You should avoid that kind of agent?
It is. I think, it's cutting out the bollocks. You've got to be honest with the band. You've got to say, look, realistically, where are we going to go? I can't put a band on the main stage headlining Glastonbury this year, up against massive artists. For a new band to get on a smaller stage, what is going to get that band to that stage? Is there a bit of a profile? Is there a plot in place? Is there radio? Is there TV? Is there press? Promoters are asking, where have we seen the band? Have we heard the band? Have we read about it? As an agent, you've got to sell that band into it. You can be as passionate as you want about the band, but if there's nothing behind the scenes going on, you've got to sit there and go, realistically, where's this band going to go? And it's working as a team, with the manager, the various press people, and saying, look, here's the strategy, here's the band, how do we get this band out, when are we going to get this band out, and how are we going to do it?
I've just started working with an artist who I'm crazily excited about, and everyone else seems to be as well. And with that, there's no... Should I say?
Yeah, go on, plug your acts.
They're called Factory Floor, and they're a three-piece from London who... had a 2-page NME spread 2 weeks ago, and since then it's just been okay, this is really exciting, but there's no label in place, there's not much more than a single planned before Christmas. So, but as an agent who knows that there's a demand for them, your strategy at that time, it's a word, what we mean, it's a plan is all we mean. It's it's nothing official or scary. So for that, it's just okay, I'm going to approach this person and see what they think. I'm going to try for this festival. You'd work really well with this band as a support. I know someone down here that I think would like you. It's just about kind of keeping them in the loop on who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, and getting them on side with the promoters that you're working with and the ideas that you have, and just kind of, showing that you can think creatively, I guess. And
well, I mean, I've in my life been unrealistic in demands of agents, and it's a very hard job. Well, Lisa, there you go. I apologise, but it wasn't all me. It wasn't all my mistakes. No, it's a really hard job, and I kind of half my time when I'm an agent, I book myself gigs around Scotland. I've just booked a tour of the Usher Hall, ABC in Glasgow, and the Eden Court and the Music Hall in Aberdeen, and just booking those 4 dates has been a nightmare. And right from the start, we always booked our own gigs, at the same time as working with agents, even though they weren't always happy about it. But we used to, and do this, the same stuff agents do. We'd get a list of gigs, phone up small venues, plug the gig, try and get the gigs, and we did most of it without any strategy. We need gigs, we need to go and play, and we've got to go and play, and we'd get gigs in Holland, and we went to America, we went to Canada, and we did some huge gigs, like festivals in front of 30 or 40,000 people, but without an album released in America and stuff like this. But more recently, we kind of started doing it, working with agents, I suppose, in a more serious way, and going, if we're going to go on tour France next December, we've got an album being released in France, and we've got a PR company in France, and we've got a TV special going out in France. So now I think a lot more in those terms. My name's Toby. I play music and book gigs, but I'm not an agent, but I work with agents quite a lot. So it was interesting to speak at this. I thought it was good. I'm not sure, but I thought it was good.
You need to employ a tax accountant, just as if you were going to have, if you're VAT registered. VAT is your money, it's not the agent's money. In fact, this is how the client accounts are set up, where your money is held. It's a term called in escrow, which means nobody can touch it until you've completed your engagement. If you don't complete your engagement, then we have to send it back to the promoter, obviously. The promoter is the person that lives locally. They are the native, presumably. They know what the laws are.
It's horribly boring, but you have to be aware of it and you have to be clued up. My bands that I manage hate me because sometimes, not all the time, because I sit them down and I make sure they understand when I'm talking about tax and how this is going to affect them, that they understand what it is that they're paying, why they're paying it, how it's going to affect things and what's being done. You have to get it into you. And if it involves reading a book and just understand it.
So, I mean, what about things like visas? Is that something that the management should take care of, or is it something that you have to do?
In Europe, we have it in our contracts that promoters have to do it. They have to apply and pay for any visas, driving permits, work permits, anything like that. It's usually really, really simple. Most countries, like Holland, you just provide passport copies.
Toby, what about you? I mean, you got a bit of a multinational band, so I mean, does that sort of throw up problems for certain countries when it comes to? I mean, you've got like a Bolivian or something, or a Colombian.
We've got 3 Cubans in the band, so whenever we go to America, they can't come. So we have to stay in Scotland. So we have to get Venezuelans just about allowed into Cuba at the moment. But one of the Cubans has just got a British passport, and the other one's trying to get a British passport. So he's reading a book this thick of interesting facts about Britain, so he can become a citizen. So he can come to America the next time we tour there. But there's a lot of Argentinians and Venezuelans and Chileans and all this. So
I mean, do you find yourself, you get through customs, no bother, and the rest of them are all getting the fist and stuff?
I run the band, so we flew back from, I can't remember where, recently somewhere through Amsterdam, and the Cubans always get stopped and they always get held back for half an hour, and sometimes you miss connecting flights. And I mean, we did a big tour of America, and in America we get the agent to book our visas. It costs a fortune. We have to fly the whole band down to London and go to the embassy there, and we get there the night before, get there at 7:45, get your visa. It costs a fortune. They never ask you anything worthwhile when you're down there. You get a stupid fingerprint. And the last time we went there, we paid a fortune to get extra expensive couriers to get them back, because we had £25,000 worth of flights about to kick off, and if we missed the first flight, the whole lot was void. And the visa didn't turn up until 11:30 the night before. Well, we left at 5:30 the next morning. They turned up at 11:30 the night before.
Was it with DHL?
No, it was. No, there's one company that only does the American consulate, and they turned up, and one of the guys in the band had to drive out to the airport, and they were just going around the belt like this, all 12 passports, and that was about that. But the tour was pretty much cancelled.
In terms of what artists should be conscious of when they're working with an agent, what are the what would you say are the golden rules? What sort of things should people actually keep in mind?
Well, I suppose it's part of the qualities that we look for in acts as well. Being conscientious, being hardworking. Be hardworking. Don't think just because you've got a manager, a record label, and an agent that you can just sit back and not caretake your own business anymore. Always be aware of what's going on. Communicate. Stay in touch. Be part of the team as well. I mean, it's a fantastic job, really. I have to say, I love that is the best part of the job. That I get to work with some unbelievably creative, fascinating people. That really is one of the most exciting things for me. But and we've all had them, haven't we? We come up against artists they're difficult. Or, just, God, can you put the dates on your MySpace? I'm being enigmatic. Yeah. Well, what? Excuse me? You're the one that's supposed to be engaging with your fan base, not me. Nobody wants to see me at the end of the day. They want to be your friend. So I think, be accountable for yourself. If you haven't got a tour manager to do it, make sure you actually do call the promoter. Don't just... I mean,
what do you
I'm
mean
not
by
saying that we're lazy.
What do you mean by advance your show?
You should be making contact. Once the gig is booked... at least 1 month before the show, you should be contacting the promoter yourself and discussing with them what you can mutually agree on the rider. for a start.
I think that is so important, particularly if you don't have a tour manager or a manager. At the end of the day, the agent has negotiated the contract, right? We are not with you, right? When you walk into that venue and the promoter hasn't given you the rider, or maybe the PA spec isn't what, has been on the contract, but you will have a copy of that contract and it will be signed. It's your responsibility to A, take it with you, right? So you've got some kind of record of it. And B, right, to talk to the promoter in advance of the show to make sure that what is on that contract is in fact provided. There is no point in phoning me at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night when I'm possibly out at a gig with another band.
Well,
right,
saying the
and having
wine's
a good
crap,
moan about the fact that, the right brands of red wine, right, isn't backstage. Or, even worse than that, the backline, right, hasn't been provided as has been in the contract. So the artists have got to take responsibility for advancing their shows. And I think that that's one area that a lot of artists are particularly weak in, and expect the agent simply to do all of that. As I say, we're not there with you. So
Lisa, what kind of things have you got in for your artists?
it depends on the band.
What's the most extreme thing you've ever been asked to put in a rider?
Full roast pig.
Roast pig? Like a whole one, yeah? Ace.